Hi, this is Simon Candy from Acoustic Guitar Lessons Online.net, and in this video we're going to do another Q&A session. I'm going to answer questions that you've asked me on this channel. More than likely I've addressed your question in the comments below the relevant videos where they've been asked, but of course in video form I can go into much more detail, so that is what we're going to do today. In this Q&A session we cover topics including combining pentatonic scales with triad shapes for very cool and melodic sounding solos. We also look at how do you know how long to spend on something when you're practicing guitar. So it's a very specific question which I will address, and then I'll also address it in a broader sense. We also look at how to build a repertoire of songs, a set of songs or a list of songs that you can play at the drop of a hat, as well as a question regarding the specs of my guitar here, including the wood it's made from, the string gauge I like to use, which I've actually changed very recently, as well as the picks I like to use, which has also changed a little bit recently. So we'll address those things too. So let's get into it. So the first question comes from, let me have a look here, Carl Winter. So Carl's kind of got two parts to his question. It's to do with triads and combining triads with pentatonic scales, if I'm correct in understanding that. So the first part though was on triads themselves, and what does first inversion, second inversion, third inversion, root position, all this sort of stuff that you might hear these terms. What does that mean? It basically has to do with the order of the notes in the triad. Okay, so let me explain. I'm going to play 3-2-1 triads here, which just simply means triads on string sets 3, 2, and 1. And if I play this first triad shape here, that's known as root position because the root note, C, it's a C major triad, is the lowest note in that particular voicing. Okay, however, I can play triads all up and down the fretboard, and if I play a C major triad on string set 3-2-1 here, it's now what we call in the first, it's the first inversion. And what that means is the third of the chord is now the lowest note. So in a triad we've got the 1, the 3, the 5. The 1 is the root, then we've got the third and the fifth. They're the three notes that make up a major triad. And so when we had them down here, the 1 or the root was in the bass. That's root position. When the third is in the bass, as it is here, it's a first inversion. It's been inverted. The notes have changed order. So instead of C, E, G, it's now E, G, C. Okay, that is the difference, E, G, C. So that's a first inversion, and you can hear the root is on top. Okay, it doesn't sound resolved on the bottom because it's not the root note. The root is on top. So that's first inversion. When I move that shape up again to another triad shape on 3-2-1, I now have the fifth in the bass, the root or the 1, and the third on top. So it's inverted again. The notes have changed again. They've moved along. And so the fifth is in the bass. That is the second inversion. Okay, and you can hear where the root note is there, resolves on the second string. So we've got root position, we've got first inversion with the third in the bass, and second inversion with the fifth in the bass. So it's to do with the order of the notes in the triad and which note happens to be the lowest note in the triad. That determines whether it's root position, first or second inversion. And the second part to Carl's question is how to smoothly switch from pentatonic scales and triads. You've got to see how they line up on the fretboard. How do they relate to each other on the fretboard? So I'm going to take pattern 2 in the major position for A. We could call this pattern 1 major. Either way, it's A major pentatonic here at the fifth position. Okay, now I want to see which A triads relate or line up with the same position. I've got my A major pentatonic scale in there. And I see that I have this little triad shape here. It's an A major, that is a first inversion. I've got this root position on string set 4-3-2, okay, with the A in the bass. And then I've got a second inversion on string set 5-4-3 with the fifth in the bass. We'll use those three shapes. So you've got this one on 3-2-1, string set 3-2-1. This one on string set 3, and then this one on 4-3-2. My string set's mixed up, and 5-4-3 is this triad. They all line up in the same position as this major. triad, or this major pentatonic scale, sorry. The major triads line up in the same position. Now, upon closer inspection, if you were to see exactly how this looked, you would see that not only do they line up, the major triad is in the major pentatonic scale. It's in there, right? These are the things you discover. If you just get a bit of fretboard paper and you draw up the pattern, in this case, the major pentatonic pattern, A major at the 5th fret, and then you overlay the triads, you will see that they are actually all notes from the pentatonic scale. So if you want to flow nicely and be able to sort of seamlessly move from triad to pentatonic and back again, then a good thing to do would be to take, let's say, the top triad here, play it, and then play the pentatonic scale, or the part of the pentatonic scale, a fragment of it, that is on the same string set. So this is the pentatonic pattern, the top part of pattern 2 here, and that's the little major triad. Okay, so you can go back and forth between the triad and the pentatonic. So then you've got all little lines that you can play that relate and play off of that little triad shape, if that makes sense. Then you could go to the next string set, which is our root position triad here, and play the segment or the part of the pentatonic scale that relates to that string set. And of course it overlaps. We had 3-2-1, now we're playing 4-3-2. And it's this. And there's your triad. Okay, so you can line the two up and see how they relate to each other and switch between them. And then of course you've got our second inversion down here, and you've got the portion or the fragment of the pentatonic that relates directly to that specific triad shape. Okay? So hopefully that makes sense. You've got to get in fretboard paper and putting it down, and then superimposing the triads on top will show you and get you to visualize how they relate to each other, and in this case they're directly related to each other. Another thing you could do there is overlay the same triad shapes with the minor pentatonic scale for a bluesy sort of sound. That's a really cool sound. So this is pattern 1 A minor in the 5th position too. So same triad shapes, A major and the minor pentatonic scale, and the minor pentatonic scale there with the A major triad, and the minor pentatonic with the triad there as well. Okay, we're pushing a minor against the major sound. That's the essence of blues and rock, basically. So you get that. That's kind of combining major and minor there, actually. And then you've got the major triad. So you can fall upon those triad shapes while playing your little your lines off of the minor pentatonic or the major pentatonic. The next question is from Mark Petrovic. So Mark's question relates to a specific technique I was showing in a video, a strategy for chord changing. So I'm just going to briefly cover that so then the question makes sense. So let's say, for example, we have a C to a G chord, and we're having trouble with that change. It could be any chord, okay? But let's say that your fingers aren't landing on the notes at the same time. So one strategy that really helps with that is to focus on an individual finger at a time. Just isolate your focus to a single finger at one time. Single finger focus is what I call it. So if I'm going from a C to a G, I would focus just, say, for example, my first finger, and I'd really focus on it going from where it is in C to where it needs to be in G, very, very efficiently. I don't want it to come right off the strings and then back down and then the other finger's on. I just want to really focus on that first finger moving efficiently from where it is in C to where it needs to be in G. And then once I do that a few times, I don't mind about the other fingers being inefficient because I'm only focusing on one finger at a time. Once I've done that a number of times, then I might shift my focus to the second finger, and now it's the second finger's turn to really go efficiently from where it is in C to where it needs to be in G. And you rotate through each finger that's involved in the chord change and give it your real focus and attention. Okay, and each finger gets its go in spotlight, if you like, at being really efficient, because you're really focus all your energy on that. So that's a strategy in a chord video that I'll link to in the top right corner if you want to check that out. But Mark's question was, how long would you spend on each finger before going to the next one? There's no definitive answer there. Okay, you can choose what suits you best. What I would say though is rotate. Okay, don't spend a week on one finger. Don't even, in this particular context, I wouldn't even spend a session on a finger. I would rotate through each finger individually over the course of a single session on the chord change, unless there was one finger that was particularly giving you trouble. If one finger's giving you trouble and the others are fine, there's no use working on the efficiency for fingers that are already efficient, meaning they get to the chord together at the same time nice and efficiently. If there's one finger in particular, then give that your focus, and that's all you need to do with that particular example. But generally speaking, you want to rotate. So if you're going to spend 10 minutes on it, you might give a couple of minutes to each finger. If you're going to spend 15 minutes on it, you might give 3 or 4 minutes to each finger. Okay? Or, as I said, if you need to focus on one single finger or just 2 of the 3 or 4 involved, then do that. Okay? And generally speaking, you want to rotate your focus. Rotation is a single word. It's a simple word. We all kind of understand it, what it means, but it's got multiple uses in your practice. And I'm going to link to a video in the top right corner here on the channel that you can check out. It's about practicing guitar and how strategies for practicing guitar, and it talks about focus. It talks about rotation, is what I'm talking about, not focus, although we do need to focus too. It talks about rotation on a number of levels, rotating the things you're going to work on in your practice session and rotating the things that you're doing in each of those particular sessions. Okay, so you can check that video out for more detail, but in direct answer to your question, Mark, you decide, as long as you're rotating through them. And not everything's going to be equal. Not everything's going to develop at the same time. So once some fingers are pretty good, they don't need your attention so much. Don't waste your time on that. They're already sorted. Work on the ones that are not so efficient and you'll get much better, quicker results. The next question is from Ottman Blues, and it is how to build a repertoire of songs. How do you build a list or a set of songs that you can remember? That's the big question, because we all forget songs that we learn. I've forgotten most songs I've learned over the years, unless I keep them in my fingers, unless I have some sort of a system to keep songs in your fingers. Now, you may want to have 3 or 4 or 5 songs in your repertoire, or you might want to have 30, 40 or 50. It depends on your situation, depends on how long you've been playing, depends if you're playing in a band and doing gigs each night or each week, or jamming, or if you're just playing a few songs for your own enjoyment. But at any given time, you want to have at least a few songs in your fingers, and it can be frustrating when you do forget songs. I'm going to link to a video in the top right corner again, which goes into this method I'm about to briefly show you now in more detail, that is building a repertoire of songs. But basically, you want to have 3 lists. You want to have 3 categories. You want to have brand new songs, you want to have current songs, and you want to have past songs. Okay, so brand new songs or new songs, current songs, past songs. Okay, and let's just define what they are, even though it's kind of obvious. New songs, songs you want to learn that you've never learnt before, or very, very little. You don't know the song really at all. Maybe you know a little bit of it, but not much. Current songs are songs you can play right now. And past songs are songs that you were able to play, but you can't remember the song. So brand new is pretty obvious. It's something that you haven't played before. Current song, for me, for something to be a current song, if I had to play it this Saturday night at a gig, I could. If I can't, it's not a current song. If I can, it's a current song. Doesn't mean it's perfect. Doesn't mean I don't have to go over little bits and pieces perhaps, but I know it, 90% of it. That's a current song for me. A past song is one that I can't quite remember. It might come back to be a current song pretty quickly, but I can't remember it. So you want to populate these lists. You want to put songs that you want to learn. You want to determine the songs that you can play off the top of your head now. Maybe there's 1 or 2, maybe there's none. That's okay. But the whole idea is to get the songs from the outside columns into the middle one. The past songs, there might be quite a few of those. I'd have hundreds of them. And it doesn't mean you want to get every past song back into your repertoire, but they're all there, or the ones you can remember, or the ones that are important to you, so that you can pick the ones that you want to and get them back into your current list of songs that you can play. So that's the basic setup. And then when you practice this, you want to basically be have depending where you are with your playing, but ideally working with one song from each category, basically in the same period of time. So you got to, well, actually the current songs you'd sort of run through regularly. I sort of run through songs I know just in little bits, little moments throughout the day between one activity and another, just to kind of give it a run. Those songs don't need a lot of work. You just need to kind of keep them in the fingers. But then you want to have a new song, or maybe a couple of new songs that you're working on that haven't ever been in your list. And you want to have maybe an old song that you're bringing back into the picture. And you rotate between these songs across sessions, and you keep these things updated in your list. And again, you want to build that list in the middle. Okay, you want to build the column, the list of songs in the column in the middle. That column in the middle, your repertoire will evolve over time. It's not going to stay the same. You will forget songs, and so they'll end up on the list of past songs, and then they might come back in when you bring them back. I've done that many times. And you will, of course, bring in new songs. And so things will sort of move back and forth, but you want to keep a bit of a structure to it. So that's how I would build a repertoire of songs. For more information about that, just click on the video in the top right corner and I'll take you through it in a lot more detail. And finally, Jaku972, hopefully I'm pronouncing that right, wants to know a little bit about this guitar that I'm using here. So this is a Maton guitar, very popular guitars in Australia, but also renowned guitars worldwide. Made here in my hometown of Melbourne, Australia. This guitar I've had for just over 20 years, I think, and it's been all around the world with me. Just got back from America 2 weeks ago. It survived. It's always good to get it back in one piece. It had to get to Chicago and New York and Philadelphia and then back again. So it made it, which is always good. It's got lots of knocks and scratches and all that sort of stuff, but it plays really beautifully. I just had a setup done on it before I went away, so it always feels good when you have a setup done on it. But Jaku wanted to know the wood that it's made from. So it's got a solid spruce top. The back and sides are Queensland walnut, and so is the neck itself. And then of course you can see that it's got the rosewood fingerboard or fretboard there. It's got an AP5 pickup. So that's a really good pickup that are used in Maton guitars. It's a Maton pickup. In terms of just recording here on the YouTube videos, I use a Zoom H2 recorder. You won't see it, but it's just here in front of me. I've had that for like 13 years. It's not the state-of-the-art sort of thing anymore, or even perhaps was back then either, but it does an all right job. Guitar sounds pretty good. It's just coming through that mic that's also picking up my voice. The strings, so I use Alexa strings. I really like Alexa strings. I've used them for just about as long, 20 odd years. I started with 11 to 52, so quite a light gauge string for acoustic. Then I changed to 12 to 53, and I use an 80-20 bronze, not the phosphor bronze. I use the 80-20 bronze with the Alexas. As far as picks are concerned, it depends what I'm doing. This is quite a thick pick. I don't even know what this thickness is, but it feels like it's, I think it's 2 actually. I'm just looking at it here in the light. It might be 2 mil, which is quite thick. But I like the tone with a thicker sort of pick, quite thick. Not the best for strumming, typically, so I might use more around 1 mil for strumming. I will use 1 mil for soloing too. I'm not always going to use the thicker pick. I mix and match a little bit. Let me know in the comments what questions you might have about acoustic guitar. Of course, as you can tell, I will answer them both in the comments, and your question may well end up on one of our Q&A sessions here on the channel, as several of them have today. If you like this video, then hit the like button, and if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, do so, and if you do, hit the all-important notification bell button so YouTube can tell you when I've released a new video. This is Simon Candy from AcousticGuitarLessonsOnline.net. As always, thank you so much for being here. I do really appreciate your time, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.